Hello everyone, my name is Austin Belzer, and welcome to another conversation from Slamdance 2025. Today I have Woody Bess, the director and screenwriter of the film Portal to Hell, as well as the producer and star Trey Holland. For those not in the know, Portal to Hell is a film about Dunn, who is a debt collector whose routine life is interrupted by the sudden appearance of a portal to hell in his local laundromat. And fun fact, I think this was in the press notes. It's the same laundromat that was used in Everything Everywhere All at Once, if I'm not mistaken. What's
I don't
up?
think so.
I don't
No?
know. I think they shot that in Atlanta.
Okay.
It
It,
looks like it
they
though.
they
We
look really
I
similar,
looked for one
and
that looked like it, but
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and
And
then I thought I saw it on a commercial recently, but I don't think it was. I think what the deal is that all laundromats kind of have a vibe. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They
they
all
do
like
have a
very
vibe.
yeah. So and this one happened to have a portal in it. So
Yeah.
uh,
You,
but yeah,
just a tiny portal to hell.
yeah.
But for those who will be in LA during the weekend actually, Portal to Hell premieres this Saturday at the Lumix Theater and is going to be screened again on Sunday at the Summer David Theater. But Woody, Trey, welcome. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking
Thank
the
you.
time.
Happy to be
Yeah, of
here. No.
course. Thanks for having us, Awesome. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. Are you already in LA for Slamdance?
Yeah, I live here. And
Okay.
then Trey used to live here and he came in.
I
Uh,
just got back yesterday, so yeah.
It's interesting. I'm hearing that a lot more lately, like that people are who I'm interviewing are local to LA. Whereas, you know, for those who don't know, Slam Dance used to be in
yeah.
Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'd interview people and they'd be like, oh, it would make interviews kind of interesting because they'd be like, well, I gotta fly out to Salt Lake, so let's do it, the week of or the week before.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear how many people are local.
Yeah.
You
No,
know what
it's
I mean?
great for doing it
Uh,
in LA for the first time. It's pretty cool.
And like 99% of our film was shot in LA.
yeah. Do you want to talk about that really quick? How?
Yeah, of course. We shot the majority of the film in and around LA. The only thing that's not was we flew to New York to shoot Rich and the diner there. So, but everything else is shot here, and I mean, we couldn't be happy. We love the look of LA. We've both been here a very long time, and it's home to us. It was to me for a long time. Still feels like home when I come back. Yeah, we found some great places, and it's like places that we would like have worked before, and live by, live near, all that kind of stuff. So it was like it was a lot of fun shooting here.
Yeah, and I've been hearing that a lot lately about the Made in LA projects.
Hmm.
Is that it just naturally locate shooting locations have really inspired a lot of these stories. Speaking of inspirations, I'd love to get pick one of your brains, either or, about your major influences or inspirations for Portal to Hell.
Yeah, no, I'm like a huge horror fan, and then obviously horror comedies like Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite. Yeah, it follows like like not really comedic, but I think like one of the more terrifying horror films. And then like Get Out, I think is kind of like largely responsible for like the resurgence of like people have had in horror. Like horror's always been fantastic, but that film really like reminded people of like what you could do with a
Oh
horror.
yeah, that's so I'm gonna piggyback off that answer. Get Out is kind of like I love Jordan Peele's like tone, you know what I mean, and like just like um gives the essences like I've said before, like these characters don't know that they're in a horror film, you know what I mean, and it's like they don't know they're in this vibe, and like that's the kind of like thing we tried to lay down where it's like it feels very real, but at the same time horror as genre lends you the ability to be a little bit kind of like loosey goosey with some areas, but also come in with some like real life experiences that everybody can relate to, right?
Yeah, and my comeback to horror movies, like you mentioned a few of the ones that kind of led me back into horror. But I think a big one for me, just as far as like seeing where horror could go, that I would recommend to everyone, is Don't Breathe. That's
Okay.
Amazing
And
film
check it out.
made by Fede Alvarez.
Is that
But
his first one? Which I feel like I don't know if I've actually seen that. We were actually just watching his Alien Romulus for sure. Trevor, who is like our creature actor, he was a
Okay.
xenomorph in Romulus, which is pretty cool.
really,
Yeah, same. Yeah, he's like 6'7", like 150, and like he was the xenomorph in the new Romulus. But no, we were watching Fede Alvarez did like a Evil Dead reboot, which
mhm.
is like really terrifying. But I don't know if I've ever actually watched Don't Breathe. I'll have to add that to the list.
Yeah, don't I'd fully recommend Don't Breathe to you if you haven't seen it. I've
Yeah.
heard maybe don't watch the sequel, but like I've heard first I watched the first one in theaters. It's great. So is It Follows and Get Out. That's horror is in a great place right now.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking towards that, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the literal portal to hell in this film. I, I'd love to get some insight on how you worked with how either of you worked with the production team and maybe Trey, this can be from your point of view as a cast member as well. How you each brought that portal to hell to life?
Well, I mean, that's the production team's right here. Yeah, we're pretty tight knit crew here. And then I think I moved some lights around every now and then, but no, he designed the look of the portal with like there's a reason why it's written, directed, and shot by Woody Bess. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah,
he saw this in his head, and what you get is what he saw and what he made. He has the ability to use light exactly how he wants to tell a story. And he saw it and he made, and I was just like, trusted him completely, fully. And it came out beautiful. And even from the very beginning, before we even had the mat, I think that we shot the apartment stuff. And so like there's a lot of lighting cues and that like, you know, we just went with me. He did all that, and I loved like I mean, I say I love it now because we got the takes where it all lined up. But then some of the times, you'd get a take and like we didn't dim from cyan to orange quick enough, and it's like, well, I mean, that
Yeah.
was pretty good for me. So we're just in an apartment, just like kind of going back and forth. It's like, all right, we're going again for the, but you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
um, but yeah, I think the only thing I did with the light, which is this is a claim to fame here. There's a shot by the window, and I think we
Oh
did a
yeah.
spill from like a big screen or whatever right there. So we turned on a YouTube of like like it was a cyan,
Cyan
a
solid
cyan.
14
So it
hours
was
of
my idea. I
cyan.
was like, why don't we just do a solid cyan? And it ended up. But anyways, but other than that, he crafted the light and the look and everything like that, and just made it. He made the world. So and because it revolves around essentially a light and a dryer. And what you get after the fact of all that is like so much more, right? So, for sure.
Yeah, and you were talking about lights there for a second. You know, so we've had all the snow, and I'm like, if I could have this snow all the time because it makes a great face light.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So like I just have the curtains open in front of me, and
right.
because I'm like, okay, I don't ever get this solid of a white light
Right.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you
And
got another screen there, I bet you there's a YouTube of just some snow, and you could just throw
oh
that
yeah,
on, and boom, that's the Trey Holland School of Lighting right there.
Yeah.
Boom.
Where are you in the world with the snow?
Southwest Missouri.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
cool. Right
Oh,
on.
Yeah,
wow.
so we got like 6 to 8 inches, so it's gonna be there for a while.
Oh, wow.
Are
But
you happy? I love the snow. I like,
I would love it if it wasn't as cold. Like it
yeah.
was -8 at some point today.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, I don't love that, but like if it was just like right on that like freezing line, I'd be good.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so but yeah, that's a great answer. For Trey, you're both producing the film and you're starring in the film. I'd love to hear a bit about how you balance your responsibilities as producer and as a star um, um, in this film.
It's a whole lot easier on paper, right? Because like then you get in the middle of a scene and then you realize. But luckily, like I mean, we've been working together for a very long time, so there's a comfort there that you can't really get anywhere else, right? So like
Mhm.
he knows what I need, and then I know what he needs, and that kind of thing. So it kind of so to put everything in place, like both of us, I mean, we're wearing so many hats to make this happen and to get ourselves on the set. And then it all comes down to a lot of the prep, right? To like make
Yeah,
sure we've thought of everything beforehand so that that way we can actually like really unlock our creative ability once we're on set and once we're shooting. Obviously, there's going to be, things that happen, unforeseen circumstances and that can really like take you out of it. And especially, one thing and it was very difficult for me a little bit toward the end when I knew where the edit was and what we needed, and then I knew what I needed from myself, So like that was a bit of a challenge to like then also be like, okay, stop thinking in that mindset of like editing and just try to be present. And so like it's a challenge, but we've said this before too. We learn so much doing this, that like you really have an appreciation for all of those other departments. You know what I mean? We did do so much of the stuff that, yeah, it was definitely a process, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. We had a great time. You know what I mean?
and I want to key in on that last little bit that you said is like appreciation for all these departments. And I think I'll just speak from personal experience. That's what I like about doing these interviews is I've talked to a lot of producers this week. I've talked to a lot of where I call them wearers of many hats. I think I talked to somebody, maybe it was for the project The Whole Story, that was wearing five different hats. He was like director, producer, screenwriter, editor, composer. Well, not composer, but pretty much all everything. And I was like, dude, I don't know how, but
Yeah.
congrats.
Well, no, I would be remiss to say like we both did wear, but we had incredible help. Obviously, we were very fortunate with some great people that helped us get to even were along for the ride with us and very patient with us. Some of these things took a long time. Like, I mean, for example, Doug, our editor, has been with us for a very, very long time. From even cutting the teaser that got us Keith and things like that, where it's like we would be, without some of these people on this film, and I can't thank everybody, obviously, but like we had some unbelievable talent that hopefully like this is going to be great for everyone, I think, that was a part of it. And I hope everybody, when they see it, they're super happy with their work. So,
Yeah, let's talk about Keith and uh, Richard. Meaning Keith David and Richard Kind are both in this film. Um, I guess uh, um, one, what was it like working with such big names like that? And then two, like what I would love to hear what lessons or experiences or insights that you got with working with them. Even and Doug included being a creature actor too.
Well, it's like honestly like a dream come true. Like I've been like the biggest Keith David fan since he was like the Arbiter in Halo and like the Thing. I watch
Yeah.
yeah.
every year I watch the Thing and it's still like better than like those practical effects hold up and the performances hold up. So like getting like him and he was kind of like the first really big like actor to kind of like jump on to ours, and he had just done like Nope with Jordan Peele, and it's like for him to come on to like our little film and like give us his blessing and like grace us with his talent like is crazy, and like we're forever grateful. And like he's um obviously an incredible actor, but like he's like a teacher too, and like he
Hmm.
kind of like one thing like he we were like struggling with a scene and he was like, you can just say the line faster. Rhythm is another character in a play, so if like two actors are if it's a scene between two actors, it's really a scene between both the actors and the rhythm. And like before you kind of adjust the actors, you should look at the rhythm. And I'm like, I'll remember that forever. And then like Richard was actually like our very last thing. And it was kind of like he took the train to save us budget, like to set in New York. It's just like it was such a just surreal like day to like our very last shoot of like a 2 year film. And like it's Richard Kind in New York. He's just the like warmest, nicest guy.
No, all of that. I mean, we learned so much from these guys. It was like we're so fortunate to have both of them, Keith and Rich, to come on board. And I'll say about we shot Keith quite early, and he was like Woody's saying, a teacher. And because we'd be silly not to like just absorb it all and like take it all in. And one thing for me, it like uh it was a challenge, like rising to that level, right? And so as an actor, and like you have some insecurities, and I told him one day, I was like, man, I just feel like I missed so many layups the other day, and he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I feel like I could have done X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Just like, and he's like, listen, and I'll never forget this. He said, the way that your character says that line is how the line is supposed to be said. Leave it, forget it, move on. And you take that advice for the rest of the film. I mean, I use that, for the rest of the film. And it was incredibly helpful. And it's just like little morsels like that. So yeah, we're very, very fortunate to work with these guys. And Rich was amazing as well in New York. And he was so funny and such a kind and caring person. And he just wanted to do it right, that's why these guys are at the level that they are, because they care so much about what they do.
They really do. I saw Richard Kind in a short at Tribeca last year, and then Keith David's been popping up in a lot of indie projects, which has been fantastic. I forget which one I saw him in, but it's been fantastic. But I want to thank you both for your time to talk about your film,
Absolutely.
Portal to Hell. Once again, Portal to Hell will have its world premiere this Saturday at the Panasonic Lumix Theater, followed by a second screening on Sunday at the Summer and David Theater. I'm going to include a link to buy tickets in the description of the interview. And for those watching or listening at home, if you enjoyed this interview, I've got a lot more interviews where that came from Slamdance, and reviews of over 20 projects from Slamdance. So be sure to go to austinb.media or youtube.com/@austinbmedia for all of that coverage. But until next time, you can find me on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads under my username, AustinBMedia, as well as my Discord and Patreon community chat. Speaking of Patreon, if you'd like early access to this next interview or more exclusive content, head on over to patreon.com/AustinBMedia. For just $3 a month, you get 48-hour early access to my reviews, podcasts, interviews like this one, and articles, plus patron-only channels on my Discord. The $10 a month tier, you'll unlock uncut podcast episodes, exclusive episodes, and more. If you enjoyed this interview, stay tuned for more Slamdance and South by Southwest 2025 interviews. Until next time.